morning. Today is the 1st of November and it's time for yet another not particularly interesting, very vague and probably quite boring vlog. So something that has literally just happened as far as I know is not an unexpected announcement exactly, but an update from Jaguar saying that they are going to totally finish making new cars for the UK market as of this month. Now, as I said, it's not particularly unexpected. They've previously said that first of all the XE, XF and the F-Type will be discontinued. That's no surprise. Then later on it was we're going to discontinue the E-Pace and the I-Pace. And now they've confirmed as well that the F-Pace has finished production. Why do I separate these models out in the way that I do? Well, the XE, XF and F-Pace that have now, as far as I understand it, completely finished production were being made in Castle Bromwich, which is one of the old traditional factories for Jaguar and Land Rover. And the other models, the E-Pace, I-Pace and F-Pace, have been made in Austria. In fact, production will continue with those models for other markets. It's bizarrely, we in this country are having all Jaguars taken off sale. They're not going to make them for our market anymore after this month, including the F-Pace, which is the very last model. We knew that the I-Pace and E-Pace were disappearing. I did a very vlog about this some months ago. We knew that they were being discontinued, and we knew the F-Pace was going to happen at some point, but I didn't realise that it was happening this month. So why is this happening? Well, let's sort of put Jaguar into a bit of context. I'm quite fond of Jaguars actually. I've driven several of them. I've driven mainly at the cheaper end of the market. I've not driven too many of the new ones, but I've driven things like an XJ40, which was fantastic. In fact, that was the £10 subscriber special. I've driven an X300 XJ6, which was fantastic. It wasn't in the best condition, but it was really nice. An X308 Daimler, long wheelbase Daimler Saloon. That was wonderful. I very much enjoyed it. One of my favourite cars I've ever driven. I've also driven others like the X-Type and the S-Type, and I thoroughly enjoyed all of them. Quite sort of soft cars, very comfortable, generally very light steering, clearly aimed at a certain type of customer. A customer that likes beige leather interiors and wood. That would be me. Not necessarily always the best reliability record Jaguar, and for many years owned by Ford until about 2008. I think it was about 1989 to about 2008 they were part of the Ford motor company, but they still do have some brand equity over here. The weird thing came about 10 years ago when they announced plans to start making SUVs and things. I think the first of those came up about 2016, I could be wrong. And I've always found, because Jaguar and Land Rover have been the same company really since 2008, just still owned by Tata now, that they've introduced these SUVs when Land Rover really has that market sewn up. And actually, from what I understand, one of the reasons why they're discontinuing the Jaguar brand for this country until 2026, when they are going to introduce a whole new range of cars, and they're all going to be electric and they're going to have lots of power, from what I understand, is that we don't buy the Jaguar SUVs very much. We just go straight in there and buy an Evoque or a Velar or a Discovery Sport or something like that, or a regular Sport. We don't tend to buy the E-Pace, F-Pace and I-Pace. We don't tend to do that. And I understand that, Jaguar is a brand that I associate primarily with things like saloon. I forgot to mention I've also driven an XK8 and an XJS, or coupes and convertibles and things like that, sports cars. Traditionally that's what they used to do. So the idea of having something that's based on a Land Rover platform and is kind of a different version, something like an Evoque, or an electric one, doesn't really sort of say to me Jaguar particularly. I don't know about everyone else, but that could be a reason why they've already got a very successful division of the company, which is probably fulfilling most people's SUV needs, and so why do we need these others? But in other markets, obviously they're continuing production for the Austrian built ones, the F-Pace, E-Pace and I-Pace, so there must be a market for those, but we're going to have this big gap from this month, November 2024, until 2026, when those new electric models are launched. Whether or not they're going to be better, I don't know. It's a real shame that the I think it was the X351 XJ series was not replaced. There were plans to replace the X351 Jaguar XJ series. They were going to do it, but for some reason at the last minute they cancelled all the plans. I think they were even going to introduce an electric version of it, but in the end they didn't, and the car I think was discontinued about 2019-2020, the X351 generation, which is a shame, because I quite like those cars actually. I'd like to have a go at one of them at some point in my life. But it's just a good move. I don't know, if I'm honest. I don't think the I-Pace was the best car. There seems to have been quite a few quality control issues with that particular one. And by now, 5 years after its launch, it is a bit behind. They're obviously not going to replace the F-Pace and the E-Pace. They're just not going to replace them directly, and they weren't massive size over here. I heard actually in the article that I read on Autocar website today that the spokesperson from Jaguar said that none of the Jaguar models, none of them make any money, absolutely none of them. So Jaguar as a brand is being propped up by Land Rover. They're being propped up by them. So yeah, I understand that. It's not the first time that's happened. Back in the day, as many of you know, the original classic Mini was either making no profit, or as Ford said it, when they took a Mini themselves and took it apart and worked out how much it would be to build it, they worked out they were losing £35 a car. Now, they might not have been, but that's what Ford thought made pull the car apart. So it's possible actually, like the Mini was for many years. Obviously later on it wasn't, but at the beginning of the sort of 60s, apparently it was a loss leader for the company, and they had so many other divisions at BMC that it didn't really matter in a way. So perhaps it's just what it's been the sort of plan, but we don't really mind. We can sell so many of these Land Rover things, we don't need to make a profit at Jaguar. Jaguar will just be there for making nice things like the F-Type, which is again a car I'd love to have a go at. But clearly what's happened is the accountants thought, well, we're going to push it up market. Everyone seems to want to have these electric SUVs now and other electric cars, and we can make more money per car by using 600 horsepower cars. Apparently that's the sort of power output we're looking at with these new models that are going to be launched in 2026. But I'm just one of those people, as you can imagine. I own tweed jackets and corduroy jackets and things like that, and I've got my sensible trousers on, and I bemoan the kind of demise of a company like Jaguar, who made some fantastic cars, a lot of innovation as well within the company over so many years, whilst appealing to a certain very type of loyal buyer, not necessarily maybe youngest type of buyer, but despite many efforts over the years to try to entice younger people into buying them. But do I really want a Jaguar that's just going to be entirely consisting of large electric cars on the same platform? There's 3 models apparently on this new platform they're bringing out. They're going to be very expensive, and there's not going to be any more combustion engines. I hate to sound really sort of traditional and boring, but I'm not really sure I'm sort of up for this future that is apparently being showcased. Jaguar obviously hasn't been self-made for quite some time. They've tried to keep the traditional saloons like the XE and SO going, but nobody wants to buy the XE. The sales for those have been absolutely tiny, because most people just go and buy, I don't know, an Audi A4 or a Mercedes C-Class or a BMW 3 Series. That's just what they buy. They don't think about Jaguar. The XF clearly is the same, although we're looking at things like the Audi A6 and the E-Class and the BMW 5 Series, all of which you still buy. Although, bizarrely, I think the A4 has actually been discontinued as well in this country. So, I don't know, let me know if you want me to look into what is going on at Audi as well in that respect, because I've heard this, but I don't know the story behind that particularly. So there we go, an interesting decision by the owners of Jaguar to just withdraw all models from our market and only sell the E-Pace, F-Pace and I-Pace abroad until presumably 2026, when everything gets essentially rebooted. Anyway, thank you ever so much once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave a comment below, and we shall see you again very soon for some more surprisingly relevant music.